brings us on to the last movie, The Battle of Five Armies. The biggest problem this movie has is it is a clusterfuck of CGI mess, and everything kind of looks the same. You can't really tell which side's which. Because of the changes we've made, we now have established that there's an army of goblins rather than just big orcs, because the big orcs in in their iron armour look very similar to dwarves, they're just slightly taller, but when you're looking at this great big CGI mess, it's difficult to tell. If you look at any of the Transformers movies, all the Decepticons are grey and spiky. You can't tell who's who. The Autobots are a little bit easier because they've got all the colours, and that makes it easier to identify just at the sight. That's Optimus Prime because he's red and blue. That's Bumblebee because he's yellow, and so on. When you've got the fighting in Lord of the Rings, you've got the men of Gondor are wearing sort of iron armour, so it's all sort of shiny silver. The men of Rohan are wearing sort of browns and greens. The orcs are sort of wearing black and dark leather and bits and pieces of everything. You've got the men of Rhûn wearing gold and red. It becomes easy to tell who's who. You know, in the Battle of Helm's Deep, you've got the elves wearing gold and blue versus Uruk-hai in black armour, and then men of Rohan in green and brown. You can tell what's going on. With this movie, you can't. In this battle, you can't. Now, the fact that the battle takes up most of the movie is appropriate. You could scale this movie back quite a bit, make it shorter, quite easily. I know why they didn't do that, because obviously they wanted to make a third movie, they wanted it to be a trilogy. That was, I believe, more of an executive decision rather than an actual directorial decision, but I don't know enough about that to be able to say. Because we've made the change of the orcs being goblins, they're all gonna. You see how the goblins look in Battle of Five Armies. They basically got sort of like a black chest piece on. You could give them, say, like helmets, but then it's kind of, you've got all the gangly sort of pale flesh-coloured arms and legs, and they're running around carrying swords. That makes them noticeable. They'd be the same size as the dwarves pretty much, but it makes them easier to see. The dwarves wearing sort of like the iron armour, so they've got that silvery look. The elves in their gold armour. And the men wearing sort of just rags and clothes. Rags and clothes would be quite cool. And maybe put them all in. Let's say you put them all in blue. Let's just say blue as an example, because they found they've got old armour and stuff from Dale. Actually, you've got the Dale armour, which you see in the flashback at the beginning of Unexpected Journey, where they've got sort of brown, where they're wearing brown and red. You could have them find loads of brown leather armour, so you've got the fishermen wearing the brown leather armour and having the red cloaks. That would make them stand out a bit more, maybe. In terms of how this movie plays out, at the very beginning we'd put a new scene in, which is going to be a flashback, and this is going to be Thorin and Dane talking either before or after the meeting of the Seven Dwarf Lords regarding the quest to take back Erebor, and where Dane will say that this is how the meeting went, or is going to go, or has gone, depending on where you place it. We can't officially help you because it's not been agreed by the voting, but I will get an army ready. We'll be ready to march. You send us a signal once the dragon's gone, and we will be there as soon as possible to help you keep hold of the mountain. Do that, because then that introduces Dane early. It introduces how he's got an army there so quickly, because he had one basically waiting to one side. Because the biggest problem of Battle of Five Armies is they play fast and loose with the geography. Angmar is on the wrong side of the Misty Mountains and really quite far north, and yet Bolg goes from Erebor to Angmar in about a day on walkback. In terms of distance, the distance travelled, you'd have to go from just around outside Lake Town, from wherever he meets up with Azov, round the outside of Mirkwood, or through Mirkwood. And seeing as an army being marshalled in Mirkwood and coming through, he'd probably go around it, and he'd have to go to the north of the Misty Mountains, and then round to the other side of that. Now, seeing he's an orc, he probably won't get attacked on the road by other orcs and trolls and stuff, but you never know, because that's how orcs operate. They do kind of tend to do that sort of stuff. In essence, it's not a journey you'd be able to make in a day, even if you're on a horse or a warg or something like that. If you're on a fell beast or on an eagle, you could probably make it in a day. Maybe. You have to start early in the morning, you can probably get there relatively late at night. But that's a different thing. You would drop Angmar from the equation, then go to Angmar. You've already got the army of goblins coming. That's all you need. The fifth army will be the eagles, because that's what it is in the book. I believe there was a scene that was filmed of Radagast talking to the King of the Eagles, the main eagle that you see in the various movies, the one who's their leader. You'd have Radagast talking to him, saying, "You need to come and help because the dragon's gone. But if an army gets in that mountain, it'll be a lot worse for everyone. And plus, I'm Radagast the Brown. I'm in love with nature, and you know that. You love me. Blah blah blah. Whatever they want to do with it, it makes more sense for the eagles to turn up." Now, there were a couple of other scenes that I'm told are filmed, but I haven't seen them. I've seen bits and pieces that lead me to believe that they were filmed. Things like Bayon being captured and taken to Dol Guldur and tortured, and he gets rescued at the same time the White Council turns up to save Gandalf. Now, that's something we're going to touch on quickly, because I didn't really touch on that when I was talking about Desolation of Smaug, but I'll talk about it now. Other than changing Bolg for Azog and making it more goblins than anything else, a lot of what's going to happen at Dol Guldur will stay the same. The Necromancer will be revealed to Sauron, that'll be done towards the beginning of Battle of Five Armies. The White Council will turn up. I would make the White Council a little bit bigger. I would put in a few of the other characters. I know they're kind of throwaway mentions like Glorfindel, characters like him, for example, and you just have like a few other elves, maybe a few other leaders in the background, just to make it a bit more believable, because you've got, Saruman and Elrond and Lady Galadriel taking on 9 ring wraiths, and even then, Galadriel's not taking on them, she's like on the floor trying to help Gandalf. She only gets up to fight Sauron when Sauron appears. Here's where we're going to get to the biggest changes. Alfred the Butler will be the first thing. He's gone. He dies when Smaug attacks Lake Town. The Lake Town attack by Smaug will keep the same. Because all of that's awesome. Bard trying to kill a dragon with a bow and arrow on his own looks great. It'll be the Master who survives, the Master of Lake Town, because that will have a bit more narrative resonance. Seeing that it's like he doesn't have as much power as he thought he did. He wasn't as important as he thought he was. He was a big fish in a small pond back when it was Lake Town, but now he's dealing on a more global scale when he's dealing with dwarves and elves as well as men, rather than just dealing with like selling wine and food to the elves or whatever else he's doing. He's now got something. It's now thinking, oh my god, I can't deal with this, and Bard's the one who steps up and takes over and can. But plus it made more sense that the townspeople would want to lynch him rather than Alfred the Butler, because Alfred the Butler was an arse, and he was like a proper bootlick to the Master, but it was the Master who's actually doing everything. It's kind of, okay, I know, mob mentality, no one's that happy, especially when things are going wrong, so these things kind of tend to happen, but it makes more sense if it's the Master. That's what I'm going to say for that. The Men of Lake Town will go to Dale. That's where they'll stay, just as it does in the movie. But again, it's the Master instead of Alfred, if you have that role at all. Legolas won't be there. He wouldn't have left the forest. Because the thing is, the orcs wouldn't have gone to Lake Town in the version that I'm doing. Because you've got enough dramatic tension with Smaug flying around. You could have Keely injured, but he's not poisoned, he's just got an arrow in the leg. So he can't keep up, that's all. The main thrust of what we're getting to next is going to be the actual battle itself, because this is the bit that needs the biggest changes. In the original theatrical version, you have the Dwarven army standing off against the Elven army with the men in there, with a few of the men in there as well. And then that's when the orcs appear, and it's like they all kind of then rally together to go and fight them. In the extended version, they had the elves and dwarves actually fight each other for a bit. I'm like, no, that stuff not going to happen, because it didn't happen in the book, so there's no reason for it to happen here. If you want to say dramatic tension, well, you've got dramatic tension of two armies standing off, some armies standing off against each other, waiting for the pin to drop, and to see who blinks first and actually start fighting. That's enough dramatic tension. But here's what I'd do. I would have it a little bit. I'd have the armies get a little bit closer to each other. So you've got the elves and men on one side, the dwarves on the other, and then they're all like, okay, they're all about to start. And Gandalf tries to go out and make peace, and it's not really working. But he's keeping them from fighting at the moment because they respect Gandalf enough to actually listen to him. All sides do for that, but they don't. But they will fight eventually. Gandalf's holding them back for now. That's when the goblins appear, but not right through weirworms eating through the ground. Gandalf will come and warn them, say the goblins are coming. Bolg is leading an army of goblins. they'll be here in a, they were right behind me, they'll be here in an hour, they're going to come from that direction. Come on, you've got to listen to me. And then what will happen is that they'll just come over the top of the mountain, over the top of one of the side mountains or something. Roughly the same position as they do in the movie, because you've got sort of where they appear from when they're coming through the mountain, through the weirworms, just coming over the top of that hill and running down the side as a great big swarming horde. Would actually look a bit more intimidating to my mind than a fully marshalled regiment thing running. And the regiment thing running is intimidating enough. You've got to remember at this point in time, orcs don't really have that mentality, and they're not really thinking that way. They're just a giant horde. Azog is a leader of orcs, but he is a leader of orcs because he's a big badass mofo. He's not even, orcs aren't known to be tactical. Now, what you see in this movie is them be tactical, and I think that's a little bit beyond what they're supposed to be able to do if you're following Tolkien's lore and everything. What I would do is just have them be a great big swarm of Bolgers pointing at the mountain, and the idea is that Bolg's going to use them as a distraction so he can get to Thorin and kill him. That's what he's going to do. They'll come down, goblins will come down the side, they'll start charging towards, and then everyone's going to be like just in absolute confusion. Thorin's not going to have any of this dragon sickness bollocks. He's going to have just normal greed. It's a case of, oh my god, I didn't realise it was this much gold, it's mine, I want it all, I'm going to keep it. He's going to be all like that. But then he's not going to be blindly stupid about it either. Once the goblins come over and everyone's thinking, what do we do now? What do we do now? That's when the bell swings through, knocks the thing out, Bomber is blowing the horn, and the dwarves charge out. Because in the book that's how one of the things that kicks off the battle anyway. Thorin charging out in the royal armour with the other 13 dwarves, the other 12 dwarves following him. We'll keep it like that. He'll charge out. Dane will be like to the king, and everyone just kind of follows. And that's what kicks off the battle. Now, in terms of editing for the battle, some of the fight scenes are quite cool. I would basically get rid of everything though that wasn't focusing on the main dwarves, because they're the characters we've been following. If you're not following the dwarves, or you're not following Bilbo or Gandalf, or even Bard, it's not worth following. But you mainly want to put priority on those 13 dwarves. Now, there's some stuff that put into the extended scenes that should probably have been the actual fight scenes you saw, not just like the grey sludge against grey sludge. You've got like all the dwarves like working in tandem, like throwing axes and using a throwing axe to throw to each other and kill orcs and stuff. But that's what they should have been doing. As they should have used. We'll have the goblins attack the town as well. There'll be some trolls there. We won't have ogres. We'll get rid of that. We will have more wargs, if you want to have something more intimidating. But you've got trolls, wargs, and orcs. That's it. No ogres, because they kind of came out of nowhere. You can make a plausible reason for trolls being there. Say, you have a couple of talking trolls be there. They're just hanging out a dog or saying like, yeah, we're trying to track some dwarves that killed a few of our friends earlier. So we're trying to track them and show them what it's like to kill some of our friends. That's like, okay, I could see that. The ogres, they just kind of appear. It's like, well, they look. It's kind of. I didn't know there were supposed to be ogres until I looked it up on the Lord of the Rings wiki later on. Shrug. So it's kind of, they're not even actually referred to as ogres in the movie. Anyway, you can have the people of Lake Town retreat into Dale to fight goblins there, while there's trolls and orcs and wargs running around in there. They're trying to fight them all. You have some elves in there as well. Mainly elves and dwarves fighting on the field, just as you see in the actual movie. As long as the emphasis is that it's Thorin leading the charge to get everyone fighting in the first place. You got that little meeting of Dane and Thorin talking. It's like, Dick cousin, what are we gonna do? We can't win. There's too many of the buggers. It's like okay. You then have Thorin say, I've got an idea. Bolg's after me. He's gonna draw all his focus on me. So let's get him somewhere away. Let's move him out of the line. But somewhere obvious, like what? Like up there. And they point to Ravenhill, and that's when they go up there. There won't be anyone up there to begin with. There won't be the flags trying to do the military tactics thing. It's just going to be a giant swarm of goblins. And then you can have like scenes of goblins just like climbing, like running, jumping on elves and pulling them down, like running at dwarves and swarming them. Because, you've got that scene with the dwarven battle line They got all the spears and the shields ready to sort of take it as a phalanx. You could have instead of having the elves jump over and start swinging swords and killing them all, as you did in the original movie, in this version you could maybe have the elves off the other side, fight around on the other flank or whatever, it doesn't matter. The goblins run into that low die, because they get stabbed with the phalanx, but then you could have a few of them climb over, just literally climb over the top of the phalanx and just land on the inside and start messing around and ruining the formation. Because the whole point is it's a giant swarm. The swarm is scarier and would work better and still fit what you're doing with the movie. We wouldn't have the giant bats. I wouldn't have them appear at all because it's not necessary. Now, would there be a fifth army coming from Angmar? Well, we've removed Angmar from the equation, so no. If you want to say a couple of the Warg pack have led some goblins round the other. They've led some orcs. They've led some goblins round the other side. They're going to cut us off and completely surround us. We'll all be killed. Oh no! You could kind of bring that up as a way of talking about threat, and you could have Bolg and his main pack of orcs that he was chasing the dwarves down from the beginning of the bigger orcs, ones that look like Uruk-hai, be the ones who they're fighting the dwarven company on the hill. That's another thing. It'd be the whole dwarven company on the hill fighting them, not just Thorin and like three of his best fighters. You don't have to give them all massive amounts of screen time before fighting up there, but it's a case of you've got to make it believable. They had that one moment. It's like Thorin and Dwalin take on 100 goblin mercenaries on their own. It's like, but no, one goblin will not beat a dwarf in a fight. But it's 50 to 1. They could just run at you, knock you over, and that's it. You've got to make this threat believable, and you've got to make it work. If you had, say, oh look, they're starting to come over the top of that hill. Well, there's 7 of us, and there's like 20 of them, but the more of them keep coming. I can see that working and being believable. Eagles turn up, save the day. They stop a counter-attack of extra goblins or something, start swooping in and grabbing them, like kill a few trolls maybe. There's a panic for goblins. And then when the goblins see Bolg get killed by Thorin, the goblins panic and run away. You'd have the same sort of fight scene that Azog has with Thorin played through, but it would be Bolg this time doing it. Legolas, if he's in this movie at all, is going to be boots on the ground in Dale, killing stuff with the guy, killing goblins there. He's not going to fight a big orc himself, because you want to give him a Legolas moment, have him kill like a troll or something. Like one-on-one kill a troll, that gives him a bit of a moment, but it doesn't overshadow everything else. Because one of the things that went wrong with this movie is there was too many Legolas moments. It's kind of going down the river is one thing, but then it's kind of like then when you've got him like hunting down orcs in Lake Town, and then everything he was doing in the Battle of 5 Armies, it's like no, you don't need this much. Just what you've got with the river was fine as a cameo. And then if you want to have a cameo in the Battle of 5 Armies, just having killing stuff as like an elf in the battle lines, also that would be fine as well. One can go with that because he's not being special. He's just being there. In terms of the ending needs to be a bit longer. There were some bits and pieces that cut out, things like Fili, Keely, and Thorin's funeral. Put that back in. There's a scene in the book where Balin and Gandalf go and visit Bilbo. And they have they just have like tea and they have a chat, and Gandalf's like, yeah, I'm really fond of you and all that. And so, you could have that scene again, set that as like you could age Martin Freeman a little bit with some makeup and a wig to make him look a bit more like Ian Holm, and you say like, this is Balin and Gandalf coming around. It's like, oh yes, we're going to go retake Moria. We've got all this plan, blah 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 blah. And then you could have that in there, and that would work. And you need to make more of the end, because the end just kind of happens. It's just very abrupt. In summary, Azog's gone. The main antagonist is going to be Bolg. In terms of Bolg's storyline, he will meet goblins. He will take them to Dol Guldur. He'll meet the Necromancer. He will kit him out with actual weapons. Then you can take in turn the goblins of Goblin Town from just a small horde, just a horde, into an actual army, but still more of a swarm than anything else. Tariel's completely removed. There'll be a few extra scenes in terms of setting up the armies, and a bit more choice editing in how the combat goes in terms of the fighting in all 3 movies, really. But that would be about it. that would solve most of those movies' problems. It'd make it flow a bit better and make it feel more like a cohesive thing. Well, that's my opinion anyway. Now, I've rambled on for about 50 minutes, nearly an hour at this point about all this. So, tell me what you think. Put notes in the comments below, please. Tell me if you like what I've done, what you would change if you could do it yourself, if you could wave that magic wand and change any of this around, because obviously we know this is never going to happen at this point. And if you think this is a good idea for a video series of rewriting things, do let me know. Just send us either a private message or stick a message in the comments, and we'll see how that goes. Okay, see you all later.